On another note, I heard Tiger Woods with this 3-picture idea. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tiger Woods would look down at the ball, and this is something his dad taught him. You can look it up, Andrew. Maybe it'd be better, actually, if you hear the commentary from him. But anyway, I'll just briefly describe it. He looked down at the ball, and he would, kind of blink and take a picture of that. He'd look at the hole, he'd blink, take a picture of that, and he'd look back at the ball again, take a picture of that, and then he'd hit the ball. And, obviously it seemed to be something that worked out pretty well for him, that visualization.
So it's cool. I'm going to talk about 2 really world famous studies that describe the basic physiology you need to understand as to why that actually works and happens. The first has to do with the stigma of like science being awful to monkeys. And look, we haven't been great to these animals over time. But I think it was in the 50s or 60s. I got this from the Norman Doidge book, The Brain's Way of Healing. The exact story, obviously. So if you haven't heard the Norman Doidge series, the brain that changes itself, and the sequels, The Brain's Way of Healing, legitimately life-changing books. Like, I'll never forget, I was in college, I printed out the first one, 1 page at a time in the college printer, and everyone hated me for it. And I was walking around with a stack of single-sided pages like this, reading it. But it was free, because I downloaded it illegally. Sorry, Norman. Tough times. But what they said was, so they cut off these monkeys' arms, then they had them do like, one random exercise with the other arm, then they opened up the monkey's brains, ethically, of course. And they realized that even though they had severed an arm, roughly 80% of the changes made to the other arm still happened to those neurons in the severed arm. But the important part was this is before the brain was fully adapted to not having an arm. So it's like, wow, like the concept of like, oh, I only did 7 on my right and 6 on my left. I'm going to be asymmetrical. It's like, it's gone. Like, imagine, like, I like to play the game with people whenever they bring up an idea to me. Let's play the if it's true game. So like, run with the concept of if it's true that 1 rep on one side made a difference. Imagine how weird we would all look. Everyone stands on one leg. Like, it's funny. Like, can you wipe your ass with both hands?
Probably impossible.
I haven't tried with my left hand.
I'd probably get my watch dirty.
Yeah. We're all probably going to hurt ourselves trying.
I think I could.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But that's the first piece of information you need to understand. The body is excellent at managing symmetry when it comes to sports and the reciprocal sides of things happening. The second thing we now need to understand is that there was a really famous period of time where they were doing studies on memory. And the 2 things that mattered the most were they had people, they had people memorize cell phone numbers that were outside of your country. Because obviously, like, the metronome and rhythm, the things helps you remember. So if you give someone their number, it's like da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Boom. Easy to remember because they're USA numbers. But all of a sudden you talk to someone in Aussie and they're like, my number is +44, and they'll give you like 11 digits. And it's like, oh, okay, dude. I'll definitely call you on that number.
Oh, God, those suck. Yeah.
So we have all these things that are really important variables as to not just how we create the memory, but how the brain interprets these things, right? So now when we get back to the concept of, well, how can visualization actually help me at something? We can start to realize that your brain is anticipatory, obviously, right? The same way we know your heart's anticipatory. If you just like walked up to your 600-pound deadlift and your heart rate didn't go up a little bit before you got to the deadlift, it'd literally just explode. Like you'd be a bruise right here, right? We need these like segues biologically, and everyone accepts that. But the same thing happens in the brain. The reason you can't just walk up to your PR on any lift without having some type of little routine is because you need this anticipatory action that goes along with the world around you, what you've done in the past, certain muscles that are going to help get those parts of your brain red hot so that they're ready to participate by the time you get to the bar. So maybe you're doing a tricep extension. It was like a really difficult drop set, and you went up there and you were like flexing your quads before. It probably wouldn't help the same if you were flexing your triceps, right? Same concept as Mark was saying, the rush of performing in front of a crowd often messes with people because they don't take into account the fact that their biology, their heart rate, their respiration rate is going to be higher in sports performance the day of because we have these outside variables. And then all of a sudden, what you thought was maybe doing a Kimura under a heart rate of 128 is now trying to do a Kimura with a heart rate of 158. And now we have a different scenario. The funny part about that is sometimes your athletes perform better than you'd think in bad scenarios. When I was doing my assessments for the golfers, arguably one of the best golfers on the team had the highest putting success rate with the highest heart rate on the team at the same time. I was like, oh my God, that's kind of crazy. You shouldn't have that happening. But what we start to notice then is he's actually able to perform under a higher level of norepinephrine than any other athlete on the team. So that's why his success goes up as his heart rate increases. He's able to perform under higher levels of norepinephrine than maybe other guys on the team are. So his high point of success is a different biological marker than the high point of success for someone else.
Is there a reason for that with him specifically? Like, did he, without realizing, train that aspect of himself, or is it just something that he was used to over a long period of time?
Probably a little bit of both. It definitely has to do with personality too.
Yeah.
Definitely has to do with past successes. Like this athlete had a lot of huge wins in a short period of time in his career. So it's like all of a sudden, it's like now it makes sense as to why he may have been accustomed to that because so many things happen so quickly, short periods of time, all the pressure, and then you've had success during that high pressure scenario. You create associations. If you ever tried to jerk off with sandpaper, it probably didn't go well. So you're going to go back and remember and be like, shouldn't do that again. I'm going to grab a tissue.
Yeah. Perfect.
I think what you're mentioning about success is huge because sometimes when someone's successful at something, they tend to kind of make it look easy. And sometimes it looks like nonchalant. They're like barely even care. They can like close their eyes and like hit a free throw. And I think through that confidence that you build when you're young, I've said this before, there's some people that you can kind of see in their step, in their stride, that they never hit a home run. They were never the guy. They were always last guy picked type of thing. And that's going to shift your confidence in the other direction. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to be convinced in your head that I can't slide into that plate the way the other guy did because I don't have that capacity. But if you had success in sports and other areas, then you're like, well, I can mimic anything anybody else can do. And watch this, I'm going to do it better.
Yep. It's funny. Success in winning is such an interesting thing in pro sports. Everyone thinks it's something that you could chase. You can't chase a win until you've already won. That's what makes the first one so difficult because once you've won, you now have all these data points, all these things, and most importantly, recent memories that you can refer back to. Whereas if you've made a bunch of mistakes in a row doing something, the most recent memory you have for it is probably multiple failures. Yeah. So it makes it difficult. So whenever people are like, Andy, I really need to win this tournament. You haven't won yet? It's like, no, you don't. I need you to outperform yourself and manifest your best. And then if you happen to win, then afterwards we can talk about winning and how you win. But you can't talk about how to lead a horse to water if the horse has never drank the water, if the horse isn't accepting of it. So when you have an experience like failure, it might change you, but you also need to realize in a funny way how it didn't change you. So when you win, there are certain things you don't want to change, and there are certain things you do want to change, the same way with failure. So if you won for the first time and you happen to do a couple of novel things that I might look at as your coach that really contributed to the win, we now have data points that say you respond really well to this. That's why that heart rate test I did on that athlete was so important, because now I can go back to his team and say, in fact, we need to be getting his heart rate even higher in warm-ups the day of because we know this response to norepinephrine he has. Whereas with someone else on the team, I might limit his heart rate in his warm-up to 128 because he doesn't respond better to norepinephrine as it just dose-dependently goes up.
What if somebody's listening and they have a negative association to pressure? Like, let's say competition's coming up and they're trying to be positive, they're trying to feel good, but every time they're about to either get on that platform or they're either about to get on that mat and they're about to compete, it just falls through for them. What can this person do? Or like, I know there's so many things that a person like that could do, but what are the things that you think someone who's just had so many losses, what can they do to try to turn that vision of themselves around?
So it's funny, you probably won't expect this answer, but the worst thing you could do in that scenario is positive self-talk. You're setting yourself up for an expectation that is very unlikely to happen. It's colliding with your recent memories, and then you're going to get to a point where you're like, oh crap, I don't even know what to do right now. Yeah. When you're going through, in golf, they call it the yips. You call it a slump in baseball. It's all the same stuff. A period of recent memories that are negative, you don't want to identify with, atypical for your performance metrics, whatever. You need to accept the fact that there's a high chance it's going to happen again. You need to take it on the chin and then have strategies that you could train or not trained mentally to overcome it. So for example, like let's say, every morning of a tournament, you take a massive shit and like your stomach hurts and you can't eat a lot of food and you realize to yourself that's negative and you keep anticipating it and be like, oh man, if I get this stomach ache, I'm not gonna be able to perform. And you just said that to yourself.
Yeah.
And it happens, you're screwed. But if you also say, man, I just need the stomach ache to go away and I will be able to perform well tomorrow, and then you get it, you're also screwed. So what you then need to do is accept it. There's probably a 95% chance I wake up tomorrow with the runs. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe eat something. I'm going to do this meditation, maybe expose myself to some cold temperatures and just eat it. And then maybe one day it won't happen and I'll deal with it then. But lacking acceptance is the best way to continue to lose and make the same mistake over again. I always give the people the example, if you swing a hammer at a nail and you accidentally hit your thumb, are you going to swing it again and be like, that was a mistake? Or are you going to move your thumb out of the way?
Move your fucking thumb, bro. Yeah. It's reminiscent of like Jordan's flu game. You know what I mean? Like everyone always references that, but he's had a lot of fucking wins, but he gets the flu or he gets food poisoning or whatever. He's still able to perform at a high level, So.
Because you can self-talk yourself into or out of something, but that's just acute persuasion. That's very different than having conviction in the fact that it doesn't matter. When I was competing in strongman quite often, I had some success. My mantra at my peak of success was, you got to shoot me. It was like, the only way I'm not going to do this today is if you shoot me. I can get a stomach ache, I can puke, I can only eat bananas, I'll starve. There's just no scenario where I will not complete this task. You literally have to physically disable me for this. And look, that's intense, but strongman's intense. You pick mantras that match what you want to do in your personality, right? But it's always going to be acceptance of the possibilities that allows you to perform, Putting 1,000 pounds on your back, Mark, is never not going to be scary back in the day, right? But it doesn't mean you didn't squat it, right? So there's that dichotomy. You need to be accepting of what you're doing to be fully participant, submerged, all that stuff in what you're doing as well.
So like lowering expectations might not be a bad idea, or reinterpreting what you're expecting of yourself.
Yeah, reinterpreting, because we don't want to, for example, let's say you've had recent failures. You're like, I just don't want to get teched here. It's like, that's a terrible expectation, you know? But the expectation should be, I want to get a takedown when I feel nervous. You know what I mean? And that's how you would start. And be like, okay, I felt nervous. It was 10 seconds left on the clock, where normally I'd be like, I'm just going to fight and hand fight and just hope nothing happens in 10 seconds because I'm scared, my heart rate's high. But instead, no, take a shot, and I want you to go for that shot for real. Don't just put your head down and do one of these and hope they're close. Take a shot. You know what I mean? And that small success is wow, I was actually able to do something not stupid as shit when I was nervous today. Let's do something slightly less stupid next time.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you like this clip, go ahead and comment down below and let us know what you liked about it. All right. Share this with a friend. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And also, we are on Reddit and Discord. All that's down below. All our sponsors and everyone that supports us down below there too. So you can get whatever you like from us. All right. Peace.